In the middle of an October night in 2021, a hardy group of pilgrims started out for an unforgettable tour of Greece and Turkey, following in the footsteps of St. Paul. All of us, dutifully vaccinated and with our incognito masks, flew first to Atlanta, where we met the rest of our group, and only a few hours later landed in Athens, Greece. We boarded our tour bus, met our wonderful guide Nellie Potiri, and rode to the city and the Marriott Hotel just across from the Niarchos Cultural Center, which includes the National Library of Greece, the Greek National Opera, the beautiful Stavros Niarchos Park, and the famous dancing fountains. The next morning, we had a wonderful breakfast with Greek yogurt and delicious pastries, and then we prepared for our first adventure. We headed west around the Saronic Gulf to the Isthmus of Corinth, where in Roman times boats were rolled on logs across to the other side. Then in 1890, a canal was dug, very deep and very narrow. Not great for modern ships, but a big tourist attraction and fun for bungee jumping. On to ancient Corinth, where St. Paul arrived about 51 AD and took up lodging and work with the Jewish tent makers Aquila and Priscilla. At the same time, he reasoned and preached the gospel to the Jews of the city, but was confronted with strong opposition from the city's large Jewish community. Corinth was a flourishing center of commerce and administration. Some of the surviving buildings include the Temple of Aphrodite with its pagan rituals. The Roman Odeon, a large forum, and the Bema, where St. Paul addressed the Corinthian citizens. Later, it became the center of early Christianity in Greece. After a while, we sat down in the shade and had a wonderful time of devotions with Pastor Steve. And lunch near the entrance to the canal was delightful. And of course, there's always shopping for souvenirs. Then back in the bus, and we returned to the busy streets of Athens and its magnificent government buildings, past the changing of the guard at the Hellenic Parliament and Hadrian's Arch. Finally, up the hill to the Acropolis. It's a long climb. Nellie explained some of the history and talked about the colossal gold and ivory statue of Athena inside the Parthenon. And I'm sure everyone took an obligatory selfie in front. We marveled at the beauty of the Erechtheion, featuring slender Ionic columns on one side and huge female figures or caryatids on the other. The theater of Dionysus is regarded as the first of Greek theaters and the birthplace of Greek drama. Nearby is Mars Hill, where Paul addressed the people, saying, "I see you worship an unknown God. He is what I'm going to proclaim to you. The God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and earth." When the ancient peoples around the Mediterranean wanted wisdom from the gods, they went to oracles who spoke for the gods. Delphi, on the slope of Mount Parnassus, in ancient times was a sacred precinct and was the seat of a major oracle who was consulted about important decisions. The Temple of Apollo, god of music, harmony, light, healing, and oracles, occupied the most important and prominent position in ancient Delphi. The theater at Delphi is built further up the hill from the Temple of Apollo, and it presented the seated audience of up to 5,000 people with a spectacular view of the entire sanctuary and the valley below. They enjoyed plays, poetry readings, and musical events. The Delphi Archaeological Museum is one of the main museums of Greece. Major exhibits are the bronze charioteer from 470 BC and the large Sphinx of Naxos sitting on an Ionic column from 560 BC. We came in out of the rain again and had lunch at a local tavern. Driving further to Kalambaka, we stayed overnight at the Amalia Hotel, where Shirley Gilmore blessed us in telling the story of her daughter and their journey of faith. Arakova is a mountainous village nestling picturesquely at the foot of Mount Parnassus in southern Greece. It is the most cosmopolitan winter destination and a great favorite for passionate ski lovers. But oh boy, the narrow street made a challenge for our bus driver, passing another bus within inches. In the mist, we went further up the mountain to Meteora, which is a rock formation in central Greece, hosting the most precipitously built Orthodox monasteries on immense natural pillars and hill-like rounded boulders that dominate the local area. From Meteora, we continued north to Veroia, which is Berea in the Bible. Even by the standards of Greece, Berea is an old city. It was first mentioned in writings in 432 BC, and there's evidence of population as early as 1000 BC. Today, at the spot where Paul the Apostle preached the Christian faith, there is a monument called the St. Paul's Tribune in the center of town. The monument is decorated with impressive mosaic murals depicting Paul's life, and nearby there is a large statue of Paul. The Lutheran Sisterhood of Mary has placed a plaque here with the verse, "In Berea they received the word with all eagerness, examining the scriptures daily to see if these things were so." The Bereans were among the first Christians in the empire. On to Thessaloniki, a modern city on the Thermaic Gulf where there is a large statue of Alexander the Great, the King of Macedonia from 336 to 323 BC. His conquests reached across the known world from Egypt, where he founded Alexandria, to Turkey in the east. Under Alexander, the Greek language became common in the region. The walls of Thessaloniki are the walls that surrounded the city during the Middle Ages and until the late 19th century. On Paul's journey to Greece, it was Timothy and Silas who accompanied him to Thessaloniki. Upon arrival, they visited the Jewish synagogue and explained why Jesus is the Old Testament Savior, focusing on the resurrection of Christ. We witnessed a rather fabulous big fat Greek wedding at the Church of San Demetrius. We refrained from sampling the delicious treats, but some of us crashed the celebration a little more than others. Then we had a great evening at the hotel, enjoyed an excellent meal, and celebrated Linda Kilkenny's birthday.
Happy birthday to you! That looks really good. Okay, make a wish. Give it out.
On Sunday, we rode east to Kavala, and we celebrated communion at the river in nearby Philippi, where a wealthy woman named Lydia was baptized by Paul. She was the first Greek and the first European woman who came to faith in Jesus.
continue to Philippi, and we begin our time together in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. The Lord be with you. And also with you. Let us pray. Dear God, thank you that we get to be here. We're all here.
And sings my soul, my Savior, unto thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior, unto thee. How great thou art, how great thou art.
This is my body given for you. Do this for the remembrance of me. And again, after supper, when you're giving thanks, he took the cup and he gave it to them, saying, this cup is the new covenant in my blood, shed for you and for all people, for the forgiveness of sins. This do as often as you drink it in remembrance of me. Let's join together in praying our Lord's Prayer.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come.
The promise made that all who come in
Receive the benediction, my friends. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, all God's people say, Amen. Go in peace and serve the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
And so with thankfulness and faith we rise to respond.
The church at the river is called Lydia's Baptistry. It's a beautiful sanctuary with stained glass windows and paintings depicting Paul's life. The floor at the entry is a mosaic map of Paul's missionary journeys. We continued on to the ruins of the city of Philippi, founded by Philip II in eastern Macedon in 356 BC. There was a large agora, or the forum, which was the central market and meeting place. The theater from Roman times was a major place for many kinds of entertainment and held 5,000 spectators. Later on, the first Christian church in Europe was founded at Philippi, which had become an important early Christian center following Paul's visit to the city in 49 AD. The remnants of two Byzantine churches of Constantinople from the 4th century are still standing.
Today I'm coming to you from the city of Philippi. We're outside the city. We are at what is purported to be the prison of St. Paul. There was Paul down here where he cast out an evil spirit from a slave girl who was a source of income for her owners. And here it was that Paul and Silas and his companions were praying in the middle of the night. There was an earthquake, their shackles were released, and the centurion called for the light, was going to kill himself because he assumed that all the prisoners had escaped. Paul said, "No, no, no, we are still here." And he ministered to him, and he and his whole household became followers of Christ. So that's where he wrote, "Rejoice in the Lord always." Again, I say rejoice.
Near to Philippi is the city of Kavala, the principal seaport of eastern Macedonia and an important economic center of northern Greece for commerce, tourism, and fishing. One of the city's landmarks is a well-preserved aqueduct built in the 16th century, and it still supplied water to the city as late as 1911. Here we spent a very short night. At 5:30 a.m., we had a welcome breakfast, climbed in the bus, and rode a couple of hours toward the border of Turkey. We checked out of Greek customs, said goodbye to our intrepid bus driver, Hercules, and then wove our way through a maze of hundreds of trucks waiting to cross, over the Evros River, and then into Turkey, where immigration officials required our vaccination cards, more entry forms to fill out, and more waiting in line. Before switching to a new bus and driver, we had our first cup of mud, Turkish coffee, and our personal choice of toilet facilities. Through the village of Uppsala, then several more hours on the bus through beautiful countryside. Pastor Steve amused us with the story of Prinderella, who slopped her dripper. And then we caught our first glimpse of minarets on the mosques. More beautiful landscape, and so much more to keep us completely enthralled along the way. Only 3 or 4 more exciting hours, and we arrived in the very busy metropolis of Istanbul. We finally arrived at the Taksim Point Hotel and relaxed for the night. Istanbul has its feet in both Europe and Asia and sits astride the Bosphorus Strait, one of the world's most important shipping lanes. 15 million people call the city home. Did you know that tulips originated in Turkey? In Gülhane Park, every year there is a tulip festival. The banners are a tribute to Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the founder of the Turkish Republic. The Istanbul Archaeological Museum houses a marvelous collection of antiquities from several eras. A mural depicts moving the sarcophagus of Alexander the Great from a necropolis in Sidon, Lebanon in 1887. The sarcophagus dates to 350 BC and is a masterpiece of Hellenistic bas-relief carvings. Another beautiful example is the sarcophagus of the mourning women. Before moving on to our next destination, we had a few moments to relax and sit down. Wait, can't you read that sign? Topkapi Palace was built in 1459 and was home to all the Ottoman sultans until the reign of Abdul Macid, a period of nearly 4 centuries. There are many buildings and several courtyards and gardens within the complex. The audience hall is one of the most ornate rooms. The treasury boasts many jewels and artifacts, including the spoonmaker's diamond and the Topkapi dagger. Some of the trees are hundreds of years old and still provide shade. Not sure what these women saw or heard, but they probably will speak no evil. Built in 537 AD, the Hagia Sophia was originally the Church of Holy Wisdom, built by the Eastern Roman Emperor Justinian I as the Christian Cathedral of Constantinople. After the fall of Constantinople to the Ottoman Empire in 1453, it was converted to a mosque by Mehmed the Conqueror and became the principal mosque of Istanbul. Our very knowledgeable guide, Yücel Atik, gave us a little history of Hagia Sophia.
In Spain and in Italy, especially, and in France, well, it took them hundreds of years to complete the construction of these cathedrals, and none of them were as large as this one. But for the Romans, it took only 5 years to complete the construction. It was Christmas Eve 537. Justinian, imagine, he was outside on a high platform, and thousands of people from all over the city gathered together here, and the first sentence he recited was the following: Solomon, I have surpassed you by building this. It was even larger than the Temple of Solomon, he said. Anyway.
Minarets were added in the 15th and 16th centuries when the church became a mosque, but several images of Jesus remain from the time it was a Christian church. The Grand Bazaar is one of the largest and oldest covered markets in the world, with 61 covered streets and over 4,000 shops. So much to see and do, so much to separate you from your money. But the coffee is good. The streets of Istanbul are full of sidewalk vendors and interesting food. And there are also great restaurants with delicious meals. One establishment featured a whirling dervish. The real whirling dervish is a Sufi dance practiced by adherents of the Muslim Mevlevi order. Steered by rhythmic chanting, they seek to become one with Allah. On another early morning, we went to the airport and flew south to Izmir, ancient Smyrna. We drove along a meandering valley to Ephesus, where we first stopped at the site of the House of Mary, where it is thought that the Apostle John brought the mother of Jesus when he lived there near the end of his life. So much of the ruins of Ephesus have been reconstructed, especially the temple of Emperor Hadrian and the facade of the Library of Celsus, which was the third largest library in the Roman world, behind only Alexandria and Pergamum, believed to have held around 12,000 scrolls. The Marble Street, which was named because it was paved with marble, connected Ephesus' Arcadian Street and the theater. The Temple of Artemis was 4 times the size of the Parthenon in Athens, although today only one single pillar stands there. Here, the silversmith Demetrius argued that his business was being threatened by Paul's missionary efforts in saying that gods made with hands are not gods. A riot ensued, and the people dragged Paul's travel companions Gaius and Aristarchus to the theater. Excavations have uncovered that theater, which is set into a steep hillside at Ephesus. The semicircular Roman theater is massive in scale and held 25,000 seats and was one of the largest in the ancient world. But enough about blocks of stone. There are many other things to attract our attention here. After marveling at the wonders of ancient Ephesus, we had a delightful outdoor lunch at Bizum Hanimeli restaurant. And then we were entertained by our friendly host at Turkmen Carpet Weaving Center. He explained how the silk threads are made, and then how the women weave the carpets in their homes.
Hadi bakalım Türkan, take every single thread you see here. See this one, for example. This is from one cocoon. This one, another cocoon, another cocoon. So how many threads you see? That means that one. That much cocoons attached to it. So every cocoon is only one single thread.
Wow.
So the first part of it, like 5-6 feet long, not a good one. Okay, we don't use this one because this is outside the cocoon. So we buy the cocoon from Home Depot and we sell this one to Walmart. Okay. So more cocoons, thicker the fiber is. This is the primitive way, the old way. We don't use technology in here. Everything made by hand. So that shows the steps of the process. So we start with this one, okay, dry. It gets wet and soft, and we take the silk off the cocoon and only the bug is left. You know what we do with the bugs?
Eat it.
Yeah, we sell them to Bizim Köy restaurant, which you had lunch today. Be careful after this.
You're funny.
Okay. Her family has the health insurance guarantee by the government. We have special, law that for health. They like us because I really like to talk to them, sit down next to them. They don't make such a big money from this, but they feel happy, they feel good because she is helping the family income and she is doing something good.
After plying us with drinks, we were shown incredibly beautiful carpets of all shapes and sizes.
Color changing. Abracadabra. Hoppa. Okay, how about this one? That's the flying one. I know that, but I talk to my friends that we'll do it this way.
No pressure to buy, but please stick around. And down the road there were these interesting shops and a charming horse and carriage. At the end of our wonderful tour of Paul's journeys in Turkey, we flew from Izmir to Istanbul Airport, one of the most modern facilities in the world, and then back to Athens. But the trip's not over yet. Perhaps one of the most beautiful places we saw was Cape Sunion. The Temple of Poseidon is an ancient Greek temple on Cape Sunion, Greece, dedicated to the god Poseidon, god of the sea and waters. Sunion's most prominent temples, the Temple of Athena and the Temple of Poseidon, are believed to have been built about 700 BC. The Greeks considered Poseidon to be the master of the sea. Given the importance to Athens of trade by sea in the creation and survival of Greece during the 5th century, Poseidon was of a particular relevance and value to the Athenians. The Temple of Poseidon at Sunion was constructed from 444 to 440 BC. After 10 days on the road and perhaps feeling a bit like whirling dervishes ourselves, we boarded Delta again for Atlanta. Some were bound for JFK and had a bit of a delay, but we enjoyed delectable bistro dining with wooden forks. Linda Anhorn discovered an uneaten sandwich that she had carried from home during the whole trip. It was great to be on the ground again. What a wonderful experience and what great friendships we forged in that time. God inspired us to stay closer to Him and to share our faith with others. To God be the glory.